Good morning, everyone. Uh, this is Isaac again in the next episode around working with Git. So we shall be continuing from where we stopped, and I hope you enjoy. So if you didn't watch the last video, you find it in this series. It is one of the videos that we did, which was basically an introduction to working with Git. We create a Git repository, initialize a Git repository on our local machine. How do we work with that repository? How do we do commit? How do we stage our changes? How do we do respective checkouts? How can we add a single file? Oh, yeah, and all that sort. So today, we shall be continuing within that lesson one, but then looking at other features that it has to offer. Please note that this is not an extensive course that will cover each and every feature or command that it provides out of the box, but this should be sufficient enough to give you enough working knowledge if you want to work on your project and be able to version control the changes, or as well be able to stage these changes, commit them, and even possibly collaborate. So the collaboration piece with others, we shall quickly look at a few projects and we see how you can be able to make a copy of those files. But mainly we shall not go any further than talking about making pull requests. So I will take it upon everyone who has watched this video and they are beginners with working with Git to be able to go ahead and do and work on changes, then do pull requests, actually search around that piece. So without further ado, let's get started. And today we are working with a project that we worked with last time, but it is just that we are doing a continuation, and we've just cleared any Git history from this project. So it is going to be sort of a fresh start, but we shall be covering those pieces as you can see them, not necessarily going back into lecture one that we had around Git. So starting on, this is our plan. So we are going to look at post staging, staging and committing of changes. And then we shall go into GitHub, and then we shall create a repository there. Then we shall configure our local to have a remote repository. So as you can check here, we have the branch main listed under our VS Code, and that tells us that locally we are working on a branch called main. So if we type git branch, you shall be able to see that we have only a single branch, and with this appearing at the left, that indicates that we are working on the main branch. So quickly, let's clear that. If I do a Git status, as you note from the first lecture, that talks about how you can be able to know what's going on within your history, and whether you have any changes or not, those pieces around there. So you see that we've created a new file called that to do tool, which we are going to use today. So what we are going to start with is we're going to stage this change. We are going to say git add, then we are going to say to do tool.md. Then we shall add that. If we run the status again, we see that now it has changed to be committed. So if we do now git commit and we pass a message of like added file to do to.emd, then we see that we enter, you'll see that it has shown nothing appears here, either M modified or A or U untracked added. And then when we check our status down here, you'll see that nothing to commit. If we run a git log, which is meant to show us what has been happening in our git, in our working tree, you'll find that we have changes. This is the latest one. that was committed by Isaac Semogenyi on this email. So remember, in the last lecture, I showed you how you can configure your details so that whenever you make a commit, it is able to specify who authored the commit and also capture the date when that happened and the commit message that you put there for people to really understand. So diving in, that is the step one. The next piece we are going to do now is to really go in and create an account. So I expect that everyone who is attending today has an account on GitHub or any other online repository manager, possibly. That can be GitLab, that can be Bitbucket, or anything else within Azure, AWS, or Google, wherever you have it. But I expect that you have that already, and we shall not go into that step of creating an account. You can easily Google that, and then you'll be able to create an account on any of these platforms. We are working with GitHub, and from the initial lectures we had, we created GitHub account, or it was an instruction. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just head to my GitHub account, and then I'm going to create a repository that will speak to this, and I'm going to name it, I think, I hope the name Git will allow. I'm going to create the name Git there. And now, as you can see, this is my screen. Right now, I'm on my GitHub account. If you want to find GitHub for the first time, you just type in github.com, and then you arrive at the page where you sign up to create an account, but I already have an account there. And now what we are going to do is I'm going to create new. So when you first sign up, you'll find new somewhere. You need to look for new. It could be somewhere here, it could be somewhere there. If you fail to find it, the best way would be come up here on the avatar. If it is your actual image, well and good. If it is not, there is an avatar there. You click on that, then you say your repositories. So when you click on your repositories, it will bring you to this screen. Much as for you won't have maybe any repositories that you created before. So then there will be an option to create new, and then you click on the new. So when you click on new, you find that it will bring you to this screen. So this screen, as I explained in the lecture, we had the online lecture that wasn't recorded. There is an option here where now it points to the owner, which will be your username that points to your report or to your account that you created. Then here it will ask you for the name of the repository you want to create. This name is up to you, but remember when you create it, there is no possibility for you to update it. So now we are going to use the name Git because these lectures have been about Git. And then it has said that this name is available within our username, our actual account. So we can use this specific name. Then going down, there is a description that helps us to describe what this project is all about. It is an optional field. We can leave it or we can fill it in. But this can be I can call it beginner lessons to Git, to learning Git. So now the very critical piece is around this step where we have public, where it says anyone on the internet can see this repository. You choose who can commit. So anyone can see this repository, they can be able to make a copy of your repository. So you need to be very careful if it is a company project, always to maybe keep it private based on the policies and the regulations around working with the repositories in your company. Then there is private, where you can choose who see. You can choose who see and commit to the repository. Here, no one will see the repository unless you invite them. So then we have a piece around initialize this repository with a README file. You can, and it is very recommended, but for us, we have a README file already created. So we shall skip that. Then the next piece is choose a license. You can decide to choose a license. Let's say you're working on an open source project, and this license specifies on how people can reuse your code in their projects, either maybe to credit you when they're using it, or even to get explicit consent before they use your project, or whether it is open. So you can look into those licenses. There are quite a number of them. I won't lie to you that I'm a matter expert in that field, but you can look them up and see what they allow and what they don't allow before you attach any of the licenses. So it is very recommended. For this, I'll skip that, and then I'll click on create repository. So when I click on this, Git will create for me a repository, and that repository will be called Git. As you see up here, it is within my username, but the repository is called Git. So now let's quickly walk through these commands that are in here. So the first command basically is meant to output, the word #git into the file called readme. If this command you run it from your terminal, so it will write this within the readme.md. But that is not key for now. But what we have here as commands, we have the git init. This git in command, you run it in your project. So let's say for our case, we run this in our project here, down here, to initialize a Git repository. What do I mean by Git repository? When you run Git, when you check for Git, let's say Git status or anything, when you don't have a Git repository here, it will say fatal some blah 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 words that it will say, but saying this is not a Git repository. So always when you're starting up a project, you need to do a Git initialization in there by running the command git init. Let's say you've been working in a folder and you want to now start to version control your project. So you run git init, and then it will tell you that you've initialized. But now, given that for me I initialized already, it's saying it initialized like existing Git repository, this one. If you had not, then it will be like initialized a Git repository, then it will give you the path where that is. So it helps you now to tell, to really start to alert Git that I want you to be watching for any changes that happen within the specific folder. So that is the first command you do. So when that happens, then we move on to see the next line, which is the git add. Thus, we know it helps us to add now to stage the readme.md in our repository. Then we do the git commit, all these commands we've done. So now here comes the interesting bit. This command that says git branch -m main is meant to be used basically when you want to set your main branch, the main branch to be, when you want to stage basically your branch main to be the main branch of your application. I don't know how I can speak to this. Let's say for this case, you are trying to rename, you are trying to rename the branch that you are working with. Let's say it is master. Now you are switching it to be main. Let's say here we have a branch called master. Then we want to tell it that, no, we want to be the main branch to be main. So it will overwrite what has been called master to main. But if already you have that your main branch is main, then you don't have to run this specific command. So it means by default, you're working with main as your main branch. So that is the next command that we see there. And then those commands for now, we don't need them. Moving on, there is another interesting line, which is git remote add origin. So let's copy this to our clipboard, and then let's see. So before we run this command, we are going to first check a few things. So now, for you to be able to version control your project, you can stage and commit on your local machine, but it is very, very, very recommended if you want people to contribute, if you want to share your code with the entire world in any location, and also if you want to be safe that in case anything happens to the computer you're working with, you can always recover your project. You need always to link your project with a remote repository somewhere, either from GitHub, GitLab, just name it. So first of all, before we now configure our project to be linked to a remote repository on GitLab, on GitHub, we run the command first of all to confirm whether we have any remote repository configured. We run the first command git remote, and nothing is returned as well. If you run git remote -v, shall find that nothing is printed. But if we add now, if we add to git this kind of command, first of all, we say git, telling that this is a git command we are going to run. Then we say remote, which command starts to specify that now we are trying to work with a remote repository, whatever that is, from either GitHub or any. Then we say we add. The command add now tells Git that we are adding a remote repository that we are going to use to push our code or keep our code. Then the word origin here, this stands for an alias. The alias in this case, it can be anything. It can be your name. You can put your name there. Let's say git remote add Isaac, then with the link. So what that does is, for us, instead of cramming this entire or keeping it within our head, this entire link, Git is intelligent enough to use the alias to always pull out that link. So we use the alias to make our subsequent commands very simple as we try to commit our code, let's say to a remote repository. So the origin can be anything. So you can change and you put there your name, but remember, when you are pushing to your remote repository, you remember to put your name instead. So then I will now enter that, which means if there is no error shown, it is successful. So if I do a git remote, now you see that I have a remote alias origin that points to the actual remote repository that we are working with. If I run now the command with the version, it will show me that you have origin, and origin represents this GitHub Isaac Semugenyi /git.git, that one. So if I clear now, you see that we are working on a branch main, but when we go back to our browser here, you see that we don't have our code. But what we want to achieve is we want to push that code up here. So if I refresh, we don't have anything. But now this is where we are going now to push our changes, because we've connected our local branch to, we've connected our local project to GitHub. So we are going to run this command, which is git push -u origin main. And what this means is we are telling Git to push to origin, which I told is the alias, which is the HTTP blah 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 that we've seen, and we are pushing to the branch main. So with a -u, we are trying to tell Git that if this branch exists there, just push it. If it is not, if it doesn't exist, then create it. As you note that at the moment we don't have any branch, as you shall see quickly after we run that command. We are going now to have a branch called main. So now if I press enter, this should be able to push, and you've seen that for now it says to this repository, it has created a new branch main up there that points to our local branch main. So already now this means that all the changes we have here have been pushed. So how do we prove that? We just come here, refresh once, and you see that all the files we had down there have been pushed. So when we check here, you see that we have a branch called main. And if we open any of these files, you see that this is the file we've been looking at there. And it shows that now Git has managed to push this branch, these files up here to the respective branch called main. So if I clear now, so far we've covered up to like step 4. So moving on, now we've checked the remote repository, we've pushed changes to the remote repository. So now moving on, we are going to look at our to-do 7. So I think I'll quickly mark this as done. So this is done. So we've pushed the changes. Okay. So now what we are going to look at is, what if now a new request comes in and you've been asked to implement something new, but then you don't want to do that change on your main branch because you are not sure what will happen when you do those changes on your main branch. So what we can do using Git, we can create another branch and then we check out that branch. So before we do that, let's first do a Git stage because we see that in our to-do we've made changes. So we need to add these changes and we need to commit these changes. Check off, I think, all right, what is tick off? Finished tasks. Okay, so now we can safely check out. So what we are going to do is we are going to create another branch. So the command for creating another branch is git branch followed by the name of the branch, which we can call feature one. But we saw this in our first lecture, so we can quickly do this once. To quickly save time, we can write git checkout, then -b, like that, which means that Git will automatically create a branch using the -b flag, which is feature -1, and then to check out there and then to that branch. So you notice that down here where we have main, as soon as you run this command, you see that will change to feature one. And as well here, it tells you that it has switched to this branch. So it has created that branch and switched to the branch. We can confirm this by running git branch. You'll see that it is now on feature one and it is point here, and that's why we've now checked. That's where we're working from. So so now that we've checked out here, we can now do done for this. Then we are going to add some changes. Already we've added changes, but we are going to quickly create a file here. We are going to be like feature one.html. Okay, so when we have that, we are going to say feature one changes, those changes that we've created there. And you see that it tells us that now we have a file that is untracked. So from this branch, we are going to do a git add, which is meant to stage. Then we are going to do a git commit. And then we are going to put a build here, create a file feature one.html and add changes. So let me correct the typo here. Typo is HTML. Then we add that. So you see now it no longer shows what it was shown. So we've staged and we've committed. Now the next step is we are going to push. So we are going to push to git push origin because it is the URL that points to our remote repository. And where do we want to push? We want to push to feature one. So for this case, given that we are pushing to feature one, you see that it will automatically create this branch because initially we forced it to create the main. So now the other branches that follow under this very branch, we can quickly push there by running the command git push origin, the name of the branch where I want to push. And you've seen that now it has created another branch, feature one, of course, tracking the feature one branch that we have on our local machine. So when we go back to our browser and quickly check this out, you'll find that for now, we can't see the branch, but we can view all branches and you find that we have a branch called feature one here. So moving on back to our code and be able to quickly check, you see that if I go back to the code, I can quickly check out to that branch and see my changes, which I can't see on main. I hope you can note from here that we have all these files. We have all these files listed here, but the file called feature one, we don't have it. But now Git is able to tell us that feature one had recent changes in here. And it is telling us that we compare and do a pull request. But when we check now the number of branches, we have main and we have feature one. But that file here on main is not available, the file we've just created on our local machine, which is called feature one. So we can quickly switch to feature one as a branch and we shall see that file here. But we don't have it on main. Now you can see that we are on branch feature one. And then we see now the changes appearing here, but we can't see them when we go to main. So how do we now merge? You see that from the first lecture, we merged from our local machine, but how do we now here do the pull request and then be able to merge? So we have the option here that has been given to us, which says feature one had recent push changes. It means go compare and pull request. So what now we are looking at is, you see at the top, it has the base branch. That is the branch where we want to put our changes, and it has the compare branch where we are pulling our changes. So by default, Git checks whether there are any conflicts. If there are no conflicts, it will tell you that able to merge, which means that you can safely merge these changes into main. So that's what we are going to do. So let's give here a descriptive message on what is happening. Create a feature -1.html page, and then it will be like this is for learning purposes. Okay, so now we shall be like create, for this option we shall be like create a pull request. So there are options of creating a draft. When you have a draft, of course it won't be merged, but we're saying that we're working on something. But now for us, we believe our changes are really ready, and then we can create now a pull request. So this happens for now, given that I'm the owner of the project and I can quickly merge what I've tried to the pull request that I've created. But you find that if you're working in a group where there are a lot of people, those changes will have to be reviewed, then comments will be given, what you need to adjust, all that piece, why you find that you don't have the rights to merge these changes. So now, given that I'm the one, I can safely click on merge pull request. So when I click on merge pull request, I look at this, then they say confirm. So I'll confirm. After confirmation of this, confirming this, I don't know whether I'm having some network challenges. Your commit will be authored. Okay, it says that. And meeting changes. Okay, now that is okay. So let's now try to merge this. For some reason, says okay. This is for learning purposes. Okay, yeah. I see it has been. Let's quickly check here. We've seen that we tried to merge a pull request here, but a merge request here, but for some reason the branch has no conflict, which should have merged our changes already. Trying to establish why add more commits by pushing to feature one, which should have merged our changes already. I can't seem to find why this is not happening. Yeah, so it might have been a network challenge, but we've successfully managed to pull request successfully merged and closed. So when you merge, then you have the option either to delete the branch that is feature one, or you can leave it there, but it is always advisable. If it was a feature you were developing, then you can just quickly delete that. So when we come back to, I think it was a network issue from Git's end, GitHub's end. So when we come now to our main branch, if you check here, you see that we have feature1.html being merged. So when we go back to our local project, as you note that we are on a branch called feature1, where we have those changes. But for now, let's check out back to our main. If this is new to you, you can refer to the first video that we did. If I check out now, I'm back to main, and you see that I don't have this file. It is not here. So how do I obtain the file? So one thing should be I can do a git merge feature1 that will pull this change from my local branch feature1, but I don't want to do that. So how do I do that? Then I can do a git pull origin main, and this will pull from our remote repository from the one we've just committed, and then I'll just enter. So it will go there, pull whatever is there as changes, and then it will update. So as you can see, it has updated this. I'm still on main, but now the changes are coming from the GitHub, this branch, which is on GitHub. And now I have my changes. So basically that will be the way even you work with other people when you start collaborating on your projects. That's how it will be done. That's how they will do it. They'll push changes to a branch, then you guys sit, discuss about it, put it to the branch where everyone can pull from. Then everyone will always pull from there, or they will do checkouts. They will do they will always pull from there. Basically, that will be like the rule of thumb for them to do other changes and then push to their respective branches. If there are issues, they can always go there, check out from there, have all the changes, work on them. So yeah, in simple terms, I think that's what we really had to cover around these pieces. One more piece that I need to talk about is we've looked at the pull requests, but one more piece that I need to talk about is the forking and cloning. So within this very project, we might not clone, but I will show you the command for that. But let's look at forking. So you could be interested in some projects. So when you are interested in some projects, you would come to Git, and then you will search globally on Git. And as you try to search on Git, you find that there are projects that interest you as a developer. And you'll be like, okay, I would want to have a copy of that project. So when you want to have a copy of that project, how do you do it? So from here, let me try to access that option for searching on Git from their main page. I think I can go back to my profile here quickly, and I will be in position to find the option to search. I will search for, let's say, Python, and you see now Python, it says search all of GitHub. So I put in Python, then it is able to return all these pieces around Python, the respective projects that are being worked on in Python. So you click on a project like this, and then when you click on a project like this, because you are interested, you see the option where there is fork, and it tells you that so far 1,000 and about 100 people have already forked the project. So even if you are interested, so you just click on this button fork, and then it will make a copy of this project into your actual GitHub account, and you always have a copy of that. So that means even if someone deletes this, the owner, you always have your copy. So that is a better way. And even if you make a copy now, you could go to your actual account, and then you can clone that project. So the command for cloning will be git clone. You just go to a folder, and then you do git clone, then you paste the link like the one we had, which is an HTTP. Then maybe from your repository, github.com/ is that same again, / let's say it can be Python, .git. So you pull that project and then you make changes, you push that to your repository, and then you do a pull request. But I want to take it upon you and ask you to go out there, research about this, and then be able to see how it works, because it is vital for anyone who wants to contribute to open source, and it will really help you. Thank you. I think that marks the end of our lecture today. See you in the next one.